What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Jake Thomas, welcoming you to another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. Today, I got a really cool guest. He's a top-performing collegiate athlete, also has competed on the world stage representing his country in the event of the decathlon. Yeah, we'll definitely delve into that, but he's a bronze medalist, reigning bronze medalist from the Pan Am Games in Santiago, Chile this past November. He's also an NCAA outdoor second team All-American as of this year, and as previous years was actually the Big Ten outdoor decathlon champion. He's also a carnivore. So for people wondering about athletic performance at peak levels and not just being able to perform, but to be able to win, we're going to delve into that. But yeah, man, glad to have you here. Ryan Talbot from Michigan State Spartans and Team USA. Welcoming you from Michigan, Ryan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Man, where to start? Because this, for me, it's kind of geeking out having a Ferrari in the shop. Whenever you get a real performance car coming by, not looking for a tune-up, but really just like, wow, like look at this thing. Like, this is a hard one not to want to look under the engine and ask all kind of questions about.
Yeah.
Let's start off easier. How'd you get into decathlon? I mean, of all the events in track and field and things you could do, why would you pick the one that's got 10 of them? Let alone one?
Yeah, I think you probably understand this, doing triathlons and stuff is like yeah, you could be really good at one thing, but when it is notoriously known to be the hardest event, there's something attractive about that. You just want to work hard and you want to challenge yourself to the max. And I didn't even really know what I was getting into when I wanted to do decathlon. I didn't know the amount of work and effort and just all of the challenges I would face that would inevitably like completely change me and change my view on all things in life just by chasing this one difficult task of doing a decathlon. But in high school, I was actually a pole vaulter. I pole vaulted I started in 7th grade and ended up being the indoor state champion in my senior year of high school. And that got me the opportunity to come to Michigan State to be on the track team here. And I had expressed my interest in trying more events. Every once in a while at a high school meet, I would do long jump or high jump, maybe run hurdles. And my coach at the time at Michigan State, he was pretty interested and he was like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. The worst that happens is you just get stronger and faster and you stay a pole vaulter. But everything started to click really well and I just fell in love with being able to do all of the different movements. I think for me at least, like I'm someone who gets so much pleasure from being an athlete and being physical and doing physical activities. So if you constrain me to being able to only do one thing, that it's not as enjoyable as, oh, you can do 10 different events. You get to do all this throwing, all this jumping, all this running. Like you can do all of it. And so I fell in love with it.
That's awesome. For everybody that doesn't know, though, can you take us through what the events are? What makes up the decathlon?
So the decathlon is 10 track and field events over 2 days. And the first day starts off with the 100-meter dash, then goes into the long jump, then the shot put, then the high jump, and then it ends with the 400-meter dash. And then you have the next 12 hours to sleep, eat, and recover, and then you come back the next morning to run the 110-meter hurdles, then you throw discus, then pole vault, then throw javelin, and then you end with a 1,500 run.
I mean, that is an event. God,
yeah, for sure.
I'm just looking at each one of those and the wow factor. I mean, right out the gate, 100-meter run. All right.
Yeah.
Finishing the first day with a 400. Oof,
that is
brutal.
I would make the argument that I feel worse after running a 400 than I do after running the 15, which is just short of a mile,
Yeah. God, that's amazing. And you're a big guy, man. 6'6", 2+. You know, like you're a
Yep.
big dude. Is it typical, atypical, somebody of your size out there?
I think you definitely see a lot of the top guys are above 6 foot.
Mm,
It's pretty normal to get guys around 6'4" and above 200 pound plus. The biggest guy out there right now that I know of is 6'8", 240. So
wow.
he's a freak. But there's,
Yeah.
I mean, you can see all sorts of body types with it too. You'll see a few guys who are around that 6 foot range, and they're maybe weighing around like 180.
Mm,
So it's definitely a balancing act of how big and strong do I want to be, but also how athletic and fast do I want to be.
yeah. What when you first got into that, obviously you probably had a decent amount of skill set in some of, if not all of. You talked about being a pole vaulter, and obviously you were exposed to other things at the track, no doubt. What were your real comfort events? And then what were the events that you really had to learn and work on, as opposed to being like, hey, like, all right, I got into Michigan State. This is awesome. Was there stuff that you were like totally not, good with, that you were like, whoa, we're going to really have to pick that up? And then obviously you had the stuff that you were very confident in. What was it like between what I'm good at, what I need to learn, what I need to work on, etc.?
Yeah, I definitely like pole vault was the most comfortable, and for me, having a good pole vault is something that not a lot of multis have, and so it's super beneficial and definitely gains me a lot of points over my competitors. But going into college, I had never thrown discus, never thrown javelin, like messed
Nice.
around with the shot put, but I had no idea what I was doing. So those three throwing events I had to completely learn how to do. But I feel like I picked them up very quickly. And like in my opinion, I would say it's probably easier to just go throw a shot put, and you can throw that shot put 20, 30, 40 times in a day. You're going to be super tired if you throw 40 times, right? But
Mm,
how many times can you do a long jump where you're sprinting full speed at a board and jumping
yeah.
off one leg?
Yeah.
So I just had a lot of repetitions in the throwing events, and I also just enjoyed them so much. Like how cool is it to just throw a spear?
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Exactly.
so I feel like I picked those up pretty quickly, but long jump and high jump were somewhat new for me. And like I said, it's hard to do so many repetitions before your body's gonna get fatigued or you're gonna break down or whatever. And so that was definitely the two events that I had to really start learning and figuring out. And the running events, I think like 100-meter dash, I was pretty fast already from just pole vaulting. But I got even faster. That helped with the 100. But the events like the 400 and the 1500,
Mm.
like I had never really experienced that feeling of going to the well where you're going to run as hard as you can, and when you feel like you're dying, you're going to keep pushing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was definitely a thing. The 400 I got pretty confident in quickly, and I really enjoy that event. But
Yeah.
the 1500, for those first few decathlons that I did, was just a dark cloud hanging over my head the whole time. And so I've gotten a lot better, and I think it's all just about confronting that. And the more 1500s I run, the more and more I get to the point of like, hey, this isn't too bad. I know how to think about the race now. I'm getting more confident in my ability in the race, and that's definitely a big thing. Is just like actually doing running workouts in college was a huge game changer for me.
I believe it. I believe it. Man, I saw your 400 times too. I mean, you're 40, 47, you're a sub 48 guy. It's
Yeah,
moving.
yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. And I think about that, like, God, again, running that, in the last event of the first day, that's brutal. And then having the black cloud, like you called it, the
yeah.
1500, the last event on the second day, where it's coming.
Uh huh.
Uh, I guess it's got to be a good motivator though for you too, in the sense of like, look, I can either let this thing railroad me mentally, or just be like, you know what, it's where I can say this is where I'm going to turn it on and like let it
Yeah,
all rip kind of thing. Is that kind
exactly.
of what the switch flip for you?
I think my thought too is like everybody's thinking about it the same way.
Mm,
Nobody's really going like I'm excited for it. And the thing about the 1500 is as a decathlete, you look at all the events. They are going to be a lot better for someone if you're strong and if you're fast. And we're
mm,
talking more like a sprinting style athlete. Whereas the 1500 is you're getting more to a distance athlete, right?
yeah,
And so we cannot train the 1500 as effectively as we can train the other events. So it's
got it.
going to hurt. It's just going to hurt. That's how it is, you know? And you pretty much have to get to the line and you're going to say, like, how much do I want it? Do I want it more than this guy? And like just having that confidence in your cardio that it's gonna make it this whole 1500. Another thing that really helped me, I think, and we can talk about this more later, is just like preparing for the 1500 physically during the decathlon, where it's like I'm not killing myself in the 9 events leading up to it. Like my electrolytes are staying in balance leading up to it. My fuel is staying good. Like I have a lot of energy leading into the 1500. That's
Mm,
really going to set me up for a lot better race than just like going in super exhausted, you know?
yeah, that's awesome, man. I had the privilege of interviewing Steve Lewis
Yeah, I
a
saw
few
that.
months ago. He's
Oh, you
amazing.
said Steve Lewis?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Lewis.
Okay.
A few months ago, he's amazing. Still looks amazing. And still looks like an Olympian.
Uh-huh.
You know, and talking to him about people falling off in races, 100, 200, 400, what it is, and how it's, it's not about one runner becoming faster. It's just about this guy getting to top end, holding top end, and the rest of the people just falling off the pace, essentially.
Yep.
In a race, though, when you start getting into middle distance events like a 1500, is it about getting to top end and holding that, or are you like negative splitting or positive splitting? What's your pace like? You talked about
Yeah.
wanting it more than this guy, but like, are you getting to 90 and holding 90 and then trying to negative split your way to, or
It
positive split your way to 100 rather? Or do you like dial it down, or how's that work for you?
like at least for the 1500, I don't know my splits and I don't try to put that pressure on myself to hit an exact split because
Mm,
it's a lot easier to kind of subjectively like, hey, does this pace feel good? Does this pace feel slow? Does this pace feel fast? And usually at the end of the decathlon, you know where you're sitting in the order, and you know, all right, this guy in front of me, I gotta beat him by 2 seconds. This guy behind me, I can't let him beat me by 5 seconds.
mm,
And so you're kind of spacing off those guys. And um, for me, I think that at least I heard somebody say this one time, is the longer the race, the less technique involved, right?
yeah,
And so it's pretty much you have to be able to hit a pace that is just hard enough to where it's uncomfortable, but you don't want to gas yourself out at the very start of the race. And I'm big on finishing because I that's like one of my favorite things to do is you get that mental component of I'm having to beat this guy by, let's say, like 5 seconds. If I sprint past him super fast, there's going to be this thought in his head like, how do I catch this guy?
yeah,
You know. And so I'm one who will just kind of sit back and relax the first lap or so and just really be comfortable, get into my groove, get into my cadence, my rhythm, while everyone else is working hard and they don't know where I am, you know. And then all of a sudden I pass them and I have more energy than they do, and then I start picking it up and turning it up, and then I can just try to blow past them. And so it's really, to me, like the 1500 is like a motivation, how much motivation you have to run hard, how much can you suffer, and like physically. can your body handle it? It's not so much of a technical race strategy, but I would say it's easier to pass someone at the end than it is to pass them at the start, because
Mm.
it's the start of the race. They're going to catch up to you eventually, probably.
Ah, that's cool. That's cool. And I guess, the perfect plan is great, but when it's day two, final event of the decathlon, you're like, fuck the plan, man. Like, I just need to like grind it out, right? Like you just need to hold
Exactly.
on.
Yeah, yeah. I had it one time where, because the group, the guys in the decathlon, it's always a super tight knit group. Everybody's super friendly. There's always a little bit of that competitive spirit, but everyone just wants each other to do their best, because we're
Mm,
with these guys for 10 events. We're all gonna suffer through it together. We might as well have a good time doing it, you know?
nice, nice.
And so usually before the 15, everyone will kind of be asking like, "Oh, like what pace do you think you're gonna run? Like, what number are you trying to hit?" And I had one time one guy asked me, he's like, "What are you trying to run?" And I said, "I'm just trying to beat you." And it was pretty funny, but
Did
it's
he
like
laugh
true
too?
sometimes. It's like I'm at that point, like I don't care so much about the time, because I know I'm gonna run a good time if I just get out there and compete. I just got to put myself in that position to where I can compete and I can finish strong.
Yep. Man, when you got the call for Team USA, obviously going, being a Michigan guy, born and bred, and being at state,
Yeah,
has got to mean a lot to you, being homegrown. But what was when you get the call up rather for Team USA? What was that like, man?
that was crazy. It was such a it was just such a big moment for me, because like I had been invited to compete on a smaller USA team that was it was just like kind of a fun meet where USA would go compete against Germany, and it would just be decathlon only.
Oh,
And I
cool.
had been invited to that, but I had injured my ankle like pretty badly where I couldn't run on it,
Yeah,
and so I had to pull out of that competition, and missed out on that opportunity. And so there was this little feeling inside of me where I was like, I don't want that to be my only opportunity that I lost, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
they had sent me all the gear already. And so I had all this gear in my room, and it was just like, it was just sitting heavy, heavy inside me, Like, man, I missed out. But I put myself in every position to get on another team. And the Pan American Games just happened to fall at such an odd time where like our very best guys in the US were not going to go to it. So it kind of gave more room for younger guys like me to be able to go to it. And
Nice.
the track season is usually, it starts in the spring for outdoor track. It starts in the spring, kind of ends late summer, late July, Um, this Pan Am's games happened in October. So like
Mm,
right in the off season. But luckily for me, that's when our college preseason starts. So I had already been kind of training for a whole month, but it wasn't the type of training that we'd be doing to get ready for competition. It was more like we're trying to build up a base, we're trying to build base level strength, we're trying to build base level running. Not doing as much technical work, more focusing on just like really getting back into shape. And so I got that call, and I was like I feel like I can always do a decathlon. I'm never not gonna be like, oh, I'm not ready, because like in my mind, you should always be able to do it.
mm.
But there was like, definitely I was like, I have no idea how half of these events are gonna go. I haven't done them since last year. So they contacted me in like late November, and I had a month to get ready to compete on Halloween in October. And
Nice, nice.
so I just, that next month was just kind of like scurrying and getting ready for Pan Am's. And then um yeah, it was just like one of the greatest track experiences I've had, because being able to compete with Team USA against a whole bunch of other countries, not just like Germany, like we are competing against Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Mexico, like Cuba, like all the Pan Americas,
Yeah.
and it was just such a cool experience, and it was part of a bigger team, you know. So I got to get the whole team environment, rooming with 400-meter runners, and yeah, it was just awesome.
That's cool, man. That's a dream. That's a boy's dream come true for sure, no doubt. And as an athlete representing your country, I mean, coolest
Yeah,
thing you can do.
yeah.
So, you got a great career going for you. The Spartans have welcomed you with open arms. All these things that are in front of you, so to speak. What would make you want to change your fuel source or your fuel system to adopt a carnivore diet? Like, look, I have my reasons. Everybody else has their reasons. Here you are on the track, on the scholarship, on the whatever else is going on, all the opportunities, and you're going to change something.
Hmm.
Like, why would you do that? And why
Yeah.
would you do it to something so, uh, you know, not seen to be favorable for you to do so in the public eye? In the
Yeah.
conventional sense of athletic performance and nutritional science and dietetics, you should not do that. Yet you did.
For
What
sure.
what brought you to that decision, and then what kind of followed with having done so?
So it was my freshman year of college. I was already planning on being a redshirt freshman so that I could compete for 5 years instead of just four. And then COVID happened and that shut everything down. Then coming back sophomore year, I was training, getting ready to do my first decathlon of the like my life, you know. And
Mm,
then I had an injury that prevented me from doing my first decathlon that year. And then usually it's a guarantee you're going to do two decathlons a year, and then you might get more opportunities later. So I missed the first decathlon. The second decathlon was coming up, and then I pulled a hamstring. And so I wasn't able to do that next decathlon either. So there's like two injuries preventing me from doing decathlon. And one of the big injury that was the first decathlon was my ankle. I jammed it really badly going over a hurdle, and I'm pretty sure that I had
mm,
a it's called an osteochondral defect, which is pretty much a piece of the cartilage broke off and was like inside of my joint, and it would just be moving around and messing up all sorts of stuff. So I had to take time off, and the the doctors there were like, "Here, take these anti-inflammatories. It'll help calm everything down." And I, number one, had like never really been one for taking like painkillers or anti-inflammatories and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm pretty desperate right now, so I'll do whatever. And they were having me take it 3 times a day at every meal. And after like 4 days, my stomach was just in knots, and
mm.
I was struggling to even eat like regular food, and I was stuck with like some stomach pain for the next like 3 4 months. And so finally, like, got my stomach feeling a little bit better, you know. But I definitely noticed that like I just didn't feel the same in high school. Like, there's that feeling of like you can just kind of like show up. You don't even need to do a warm up. You just go run around, and
Yep.
part of that is being young, but also I would definitely attribute it to once I got to college, I was eating a lot of rice and oatmeal and carbs, and I was just trying to carb load and bulk up, and I think all of that just started to slowly destroy my body a little bit.
Mm,
Um, and that junior year, kind of to the start of that year, I kept getting these hamstring issues, the same reoccurring hamstring, just back to back, and it was just getting so annoying because I couldn't compete without getting an injury, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is not how the human body was designed. Like, we were designed to be robust. We were designed to be able to handle all these like harmful physical activities, and like we'll get out on top. But my body was not making it. And so I started doing some research. I stumbled upon a video of a guy talking about how carnivore diet had helped him with his Crohn's disease.
Yep.
And I saw this and I was like, okay, well, I know that's like a stomach issue. And I had stomach issues earlier this year. And I was like, I wonder where the science is. Like, I think it was just the fact that I had an open mind and I was curious about it that enabled me to continue to research it. So I kept looking in deeper and deeper and deeper. I keep looking at all sorts of things. And then I started finding a few athletes out there, and most of them were distance athletes. And I was like, okay, like they're doing it, they're fine. But I knew that I was more of a power based athlete. I didn't know if cutting out carbohydrates was going to kill my power. Just like everybody always
Yep.
says,
Yep.
is
Yep.
like,
Yep.
oh, you need those sugars to give you that energy. It's like going to give you that power, that quick
Yep.
energy. And I was a little worried, but I mean, I literally did probably 300 hours of research. And then I was like, all right, it's like, I'm just going to make the switch because I'm sick of being injured all the time. And like, I'm never going to be able to do decathlon at this rate. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to start cutting it out. And so I started by cutting everything out. I was eating sweet potato and some fruit and meat. And then that slowly was going that way. And then I got to a point where I just cut everything and went strict meat, salt, water only, and eggs. And that was where all the magic happened for me, I think. Um, and my body went through all sorts of changes. I went through that adaptation period. Most people
Yep.
call it like a keto flu. And
Oh yeah.
that was just ridiculous for me to lose. I lost weight and then I regained that weight back as lean muscle.
Yep.
And then I noticed that all of a sudden is like, whoa, I have all this energy. I'm not needing to constantly refuel throughout the day. Like I can literally make it on one meal a day some days.
Yep.
And I'm doing like 3 hour practices. And then all of a sudden like my running times start getting better. And I'm utilizing energy better because my mitochondria are healthy. And then my inflammation's so low that I'm not getting these injuries anymore. And then that enables me to push it even harder at practice. I can get even better now. And I think it just completely flipped my career around, and now I was able to just train so much better. And that pushed me into like, now I can do my first decathlon, and
Mm.
that junior year, I actually like, cause I think it was, my body was still undergoing changes. I had another slight hamstring tweak 8 days before my decathlon. And
Mm.
I was like, this is done. Like it's over. This is just a
Yeah.
repeat of what happened last year.
Yeah.
Um, but luckily my coach was like, just come, we'll see what you can do. Even if you just do the 100-meter dash and you pull up from the finish, at least we tried.
Yep.
Um, and so I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I was like, I'm just going to stick to eating a bunch of steaks and I'm going to do the rehab that I know needs to be done. And I'm going to just hope for the best.
Yep.
And that was another thing that I realized is like, all of a sudden is like, whoa, my body heals very quickly now. And 8 days later, I did an entire decathlon for the first time and ended up finishing first at that decathlon and ended up qualifying for the national meet for the first time at that decathlon. So it was just such a huge game changer that I was like, okay, it works. Like this is what I need.
Mm.
And also it's like everyone's like, oh, you're not eating carbs, you're gonna have like no strength in the gym, you're gonna lose power, all that stuff. Like I've never been stronger in the gym. And my first decathlon ever, I ran like a 10.7 in the 100
Ugh.
on no carbs,
Ugh.
no carbs. And then the next decathlon, I ran a 10.6, no carbs. So it's like it's it's not really what it is out what they try to make it out to be.
God, I love hearing all that because, it's a lot of, obviously the hamstring sets you back and you're thinking, no, I've been doing everything right or what I thought to be right. And then this happens again. And then you get this redemption,
Yeah.
shout of redemption. That's awesome. And it's good to hear, it's important for people, I should say, to hear from someone like you, an athlete, a top performing athlete like yourself,
Hmm.
because the merit is inarguable. The numbers, like you said, 10,700, 10,600
Yeah, yeah.
in competition, D1, national level. That's there. It's on the paper. People can look that up. It's not like, hey, I had this good run the other day. But yeah, but Jake, you're by
Yeah.
yourself and you're not really competing. It's like, that's the beauty of merit. And that's why it's important. That's why I share my race results with people, because
Hmm.
that's inarguable. Your emotions can be whatever, your thoughts, your culture, your religion can say this. Like, all right, but here's a guy that was doing things one way. He was having a lot of inflammation and discomfort with his stomach and had issues going on internally that he could relate to, possibly synonymous with Crohn's.
Hmm.
Did some research, like you said, 300 hours. God bless you. Good. It should be that.
Yeah.
People wondering, like, I don't know about this. Yeah, you shouldn't. You should be curious. You should be skeptical, because it's a radical change. It's a huge difference. It's a big thing to undertake. You're talking about going against everything that you knew as a child, as a youth, a growing, man into an athlete, and going through the phases of sports that you've gotten through. Like, wow, I'm about to change all that. That's a
Yeah.
huge step. And
Uh-huh.
for someone with a career on the line, it not just, I'm just my life. I don't feel that great. It's like, it's a huge undertaking and a big
Yeah.
risk.
No, and
But
that, I mean, that's what I would say though, is like I didn't have a career until I was able to switch, because at that
mm,
point I hadn't been able to even compete in a decathlon. I had nothing to lose, you know. I was
yep,
desperate at that point. And so making that change was life changing.
amazing. And again, the research, yeah, and to anybody else, take the time, read, listen, watch, whatever you need to look at on YouTube, whatever interview, whatever book, whatever podcast, like, do
Hmm.
it. Yeah. And like you said, it might take 300 hours to convince you a little bit. But
Yeah.
again, the tape doesn't lie. The
Hmm.
numbers don't lie. How were you received by your peers, Ryan? Or your friends, competition? What
Yeah.
are you
No.
the black sheep out there?
Everybody kind of looks at it and they're like, that's kind of strange. And I think there's always those skeptics that are like, well, if you look at like some of the best Olympic athletes, they're not doing carnivore. You look at some people who beat me, they're not doing carnivore, you know. And I'm not saying that they need to do carnivore, but I'm saying I needed to do carnivore because
Yeah.
I wasn't making it without it, you know. And I think that's one thing people always talk about is like, oh, like this guy, he's just got the craziest genetics because he's so tall and he's so strong. You know, well, we're not even talking about the genetics of this person's metabolism. You
Yeah.
know, this person has some crazy genetic gift where they're able to eat 300 grams of carbs and somehow be able to perform with that much inflammation. You know,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of athletes get away with a lot of stuff. But I mean, more and more we're starting to see young, healthy athletes struggling with random issues in later in their career. You know, they're killing it for 5-10 years, and then all of a sudden they just fall off the wagon and all hell like breaks loose. You know,
Yeah.
but the way that I look at carnivore is like it worked for me and it helped me be able to perform much better. I don't know if it's going to work for the people who are competing against me, and it might make them better. But also, what they're doing right now is working for them. But
Yeah.
is that going to work for them in the long run? You know, and what are the long term health implications of all that stuff? But yeah, like with my peers and all, it's like everybody kind of thought it was weird for a second. I I think at this point everyone kind of accepts that it's what I do. Um, I think it's sometimes people think it's really weird when I like to fast when I compete sometimes,
Hell yeah.
and so I'll literally just eat breakfast, and then I won't eat again until after the decathlon. And you got guys eating all sorts of like energy bars and like drinking the goop and all that stuff,
Yep.
and it's
Yep. Yep.
the Gatorade, and I'm just
Yep.
chilling. I don't got to worry about none of that.
Yep.
Um, but even like some of the coaches, it's like they definitely have to like realize that they were like, okay, like it's working for him. Like we're gonna let him do it. You know, I didn't really tell anybody about the diet. At least the coaches. I didn't tell the coaches about the diet for a little while until like after that first decathlon. I had a lot of success, and then I was like, oh yeah, like I started eating like only meat, you know. um, but yeah,
Whatever you're
definitely,
doing's working. Don't change it.
yeah. Now that it's working, they don't want me to change
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
know. But even like, I'm just blessed to have my parents like be very supportive of it, and
Mm.
my mom is a physical therapist, and
Nice.
my dad was a college athlete himself, and also got
Nice.
into trying to do like cycling after
Nice.
college. So
Nice.
he knew all about supplements and all that stuff, and I was able to tell him all about the carnivore diet, and then he was like, "Yeah, like go for it, try it, see if it works." I
Yep.
started doing it, and then I was like, "All right, Dad, you got to do it now. Like I'm not giving you a choice. Like this is gonna change your life." And so like I got him to do it, and he's like benching 225 now, and he's like, I'm stronger than I was in high school. I'm like, yeah, it works, you know. And I got my mom eating like a lot more like keto paleo, and
Oh,
just
beautiful.
life changing for my family, you know. And
Yeah.
so that's just one of those examples of like, because of the decathlon, I've been able to just change my entire life and change how I look at things in life and help those around me that I love. And it's something that I didn't think I would be able to do just through sport.
That's awesome. An ambassador for health, you know, indirect, unassuming ambassador for health, whether you wanted to be or not.
Yeah.
You know, you get pretty darn good on the race course, and people start asking you questions like, "What's the secret, Ryan? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to be like you?" That's
And
awesome.
it's definitely just a lead by example thing, because that's one
Totally.
thing I've come to realize is you're
Don't
not
tell
gonna,
them. Don't
yeah.
tell them about it. Nope.
But you're not gonna be able to change people, especially athletes who are successful in their sport.
Oh yeah. Oh
They're not
yeah.
going to want to change, you know.
Oh no. Oh
But
no.
if I lead by example, as soon as something happens where they're like, why is this not working? Once they start asking those questions, why do I feel like crap? Why isn't
Yeah.
this working? How can I help myself? How can I feel better? How can I sleep better at night? How can I focus better? Like all these things, they start to look back at some of the things I was saying in the past and be like, okay, maybe he was onto something. Maybe if I
Yeah.
just cut out sugar, that might make me feel better. Maybe just start small. It might make me feel better, you know. And so like that's at least my mindset on it, is I'm not going to try to push this view on anybody, but I will lead by example, and I will shout at the top of my lungs, I feel great. And I'm going to tell you all the things that it helped me with, and I'm going to show you all the evidence, and I am like a piece of evidence, you know.
Damn right.
And I'm
Damn
just
right.
going to keep living this lifestyle, and when they're ready to change, they'll remember, you know.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, the power of influence, you know, and it lets you realize also people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might not say they are. They might be telling you one thing to your face, but
Yeah.
they're watching. They're paying attention, you know, and the more you pick up that steam of success, especially in your case where it's merit and it's just proven,
Mm-hmm.
it's that word undeniable again, to where your arguments, your emotions, your religion, the politics, society, whatever your perception or belief might be,
Mm-hmm.
the data doesn't tell false. The tape doesn't lie, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying in the sense that, hey, it works for you. Does it mean it would work for everyone, or that I would want to go change someone that's already got a really good program set and obviously they're having a lot of success at it? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I do agree with what you're saying in the sense that for athletes especially, when you're playing, competing at a very high level, and you know this better than any of us, everything for the most part is prescribed for you. How you work out, how you stretch, your nutrition program, so much of your daily activity. When you're in the zone, when you're in competition season, and you're especially representing a country or university like Michigan State, a lot of the planning is prepared and
Hmm.
given so that you stay in this systematic place, state of being.
Hmm.
Your body is ready and able at all times. Your mind is rested appropriately the way it needs to be. You're being nourished in this real fluid sense to where it keeps you streamlined and efficient as an athlete, as a machine, to where it's much more about the prioritization of the machine's efficiency than it is necessarily the person. So
Yeah.
that's what happens when a lot of athletes leave from that space and transition into normal life. It's difficult because now all of a sudden I'm not on this schedule. I don't have this race preparation. I don't have this competition season, this off season. I don't have this cycling of training volume, frequency, and intensity. I don't have all this prescribed nutrition. I don't have the needs for all this, 1,000 grams of carbs a day separated out in 6 different
Yeah.
meals.
Yeah.
Yeah, go try and eat that as a civilian after you've been a 4-time Olympian and you've had all that scheduling and systematic, approach to your nutrition and your competition. And
Uh-huh.
then you come into the civilian world. This is where I won't argue with someone that's doing what they're doing in the competition sense. Your Lance Armstrong, for example, 75% of his diet comprised of carbohydrates when he was clean.
Hmm.
75%. I wouldn't argue with it. I wouldn't touch it. Good. It's working. Clearly, keep to it. But what does that look like outside of competition after the racing is over, after the
Yeah.
Olympics are done, after you have all that stuff prepared, accounted for you? I don't know. Is
Hmm.
that feasible? Is it realistic? Whereas what you're talking about, these very few sources of sustenance providing you so very much in the form of nutrition.
Yeah.
That's where I see what this diet is compared to other things that are not.
Hmm.
Meaning, yeah, okay, of course you run this great time, or you look amazing on stage bodybuilding, or you're able to do blah, 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 whatever it is, an Olympic athlete. There's so many pieces to make that happen. So much organization and titration, attention to detail. Whereas, hey, you want to feel great outside and live life in a very sustainable, natural kind of, you can eat a steak every day, all day.
Yeah.
Nothing else. You don't have to think about, okay, how many grams of this? What kind of powder do I need for that? What's the
Hmm.
meal timing? What's the frequency? Where do I fit in my training? What's my volume and capacity? None of that.
Yeah.
You take all that thought about food and all these mixings and combinations and macros and micros. You could literally just eat steak
Yeah.
once a day.
And the thing
Now,
that's nice
dealing
about
with all
that,
that as a human is the hard part.
yeah, the thing that's nice about that too is once you, at least for me, once I got on the carnivore diet, I was able to trust my body and trust the hunger signals and trust
Mm,
it's going to be hungry when it wants to eat. It's not going to be hungry. Don't push food onto it,
yep.
And so, like for a civilian or somebody who's just going about their day to day life, that's a huge trick is just to trust your body.
Absolutely. I say
And
that's the hardest thing you're going to have to deal with.
yeah,
Whenever anyone takes on the challenge or takes, the step into that world of removing these things, eating this way, whether it's this way or another way, whichever, the most difficult part of the process is not going to be the actual action of it. It's not the self-discipline and the prioritization or the omission. It's the belief in your own fucking feelings, trusting them
yeah,
and being like, "Oh my God, I'm full, but I want to eat. I'm full, but I feel like I should eat. Oh, Ryan said, let's go get some food. I feel like I should go. What if I don't
yeah,
want to?" Like all that societal thought
yeah,
and uncertainty, that's the hard part. That's the
yeah,
challenge.
yeah. No, for
Trust
sure.
in your own
There's
feelings.
there is so much things in our society that are built around consumption, you
Yes.
know, and people try to make it a social thing, and that is one of the hard things. And at least for me, like getting used to that, whereas like my friends are going out to eat, all right, I'm gonna eat something before I go, and then I'm just
Yep.
gonna go sit at a table and not order anything, you know. And it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
to just go out to a
Oh
restaurant
yeah.
and you sit at the table and the waitress asks you like,
Are
"Oh,
you
do
sure?
you want
Are you
any
sure?
food?"
Are
You're
you
like,
sure? Are
yeah,
you
no,
sure?
I'm good.
Are
You're
you
like,
totally sure? Like I'll bring you something.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
have. I'll have them make an extra on the appetizer. You don't even have to pay
uh-huh,
for it. It's on us. It's like no, like I'm good. It's
yeah,
okay.
no, and it's so funny, and even if you go to like in college, you go to a party, and if you don't have a drink in your hand, people will look at you kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
They'll kind of be off put,
Who's
or
the narc?
yeah, they're like what? Like this guy's not drinking or whatever, you know? So
Yeah.
I just walk around with water in my hand. I have like a water bottle in my hand or something.
Mm.
And like I'm just like
Accepted all of a sudden.
yeah. And then also you tell people like, "Oh yeah, I'm not drinking like I'm competing. Like, I don't really want to drink." You know, when you tell them that they're like, "Oh, okay, he's an athlete. He doesn't want to drink." But
Yeah.
if you just tell them like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to drink for my health," then they kind of look at you like,
Why?
what? Like they're all of a sudden like, whoa, like are you telling me I'm unhealthy? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and like that's just like there's all these like societal norms around eating and consumption of everything, you know. And so
Yeah.
when you start to stop consuming, like people start to notice and people start to go like, what? This is kind of strange. Like, why is this?
Yep.
Why is he doing that? You know, but for me, like my health has never been better the less I've consumed of all these products and everything out there that is trying to be pushed onto you through the media and just common habits of our culture.
Yep. God, man, God bless you for finding what you found at your age in life. I'm
No,
serious. Like it's profound, and you're
for
very
sure.
fortunate. You're very lucky, like you said, blessed. It's a
Mm,
real blessing to be where you are
yeah.
at your age and at your phase in life, because it's very true, man. I had a call this morning, and a big topic of it was about consumption, and you know, people talking about fasting and what do I need to eat in order to get into ketosis to stay there. You know, what's the
Hmm.
most optimal food? Ketosis is not about consumption. Ketosis is about fasting.
It's about not
It's
consuming.
about not consuming. You know, like foods that have to tell you keto friendly, low carb, like that have to say
They're
it.
not keto
It's
friendly.
there's not a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And when someone's like, "Well, I don't understand," you know, I tried keto, but it didn't really work. Well, what were you doing? Well, I was still eating like normal. Like, what do you mean? Well, you know, 3 or 4 times a day and lots of avocados and dark chocolate and walnuts. I'm like, dude, you're eating, you know, you're still consuming such frequency. You have no
Yeah.
fasting window whatsoever. You're still getting tons of spikes in your glucose from the sugars that you are consuming. I mean, just the
Hmm.
misunderstanding that most people, and by most, I mean, I would say 90% of keto dieters are never actually in ketosis. Or if they
100%.
are, it's momentary and it's by accident
Yeah.
because we are based around the thought that keto is about consumption, and it is not about consumption. It's about fasting.
Yeah.
And you touching on consumption is man, this is the truth. You know, like when
Hmm.
you step away from one of those four vitals, I like to call them four vitals of life: eating, breathing, hydrating, and sleeping. If you pull any one of those levers, you're going to get a radical response. You
Yeah.
take away someone's sleep, like okay, you get a pretty radical response fast. There's a
Definitely.
reason it's a
Definitely.
very effective interrogation technique. You take away someone's breathing, hey, radical response. Now we can also use that in a very controlled and purposeful manner.
Hmm.
Breath work, totally. You know, breath holds, free diving, etc. But too much of that will obviously get pretty dangerous, pretty critically fast,
Yep.
potentially deadly. Same thing with eating and hydration. We can dry fast, we can wet fast, we can find a lot of benefit doing both of those, but obviously too much would kill us.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes hydration and consumption of food a little different from sleep and breath is that sleeping and breathing are much more individual sports.
Hmm.
You know, there's not too many group sleep scenarios or group, you know, aside from a breath
Hmm.
scenarios. It's very much a you thing. It's very singular and individual. Whereas food, drink, is very communal. We eat together, we drink together, we like to do those things together. Sure, because it's a gathering, it's a celebration, it's a funeral, it's a mourning, it's it's boredom, it's travel, it's whatever. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, the construct of consumption is around that always. And
Hmm.
food is the baseline for most of it. Everything in our lives centers around eating.
Yeah.
We, as modern humans, for the better part of anything, unfortunately, we live to eat rather than eat to live.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you finally, in your discoveries throughout this, have found that. And
Hmm.
that the challenge is having to decipher the feelings of it being not just okay, but what feels right from the
Yeah.
body saying that.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you say that too, because I've had so many people go like, "Oh, don't you miss this? Don't you miss that?" Like,
Mm.
"Oh, like you don't enjoy eating food. Like it just seems like a disordered way of eating because you don't actually enjoy it." And I'm like, "Oh, trust me, I enjoy it, because eating a steak after fasting is probably like one of the best tasting tastes I've ever had in my life,
Mm.
you know. But the thing is, like, they're saying, "Oh, you don't enjoy it." And I always tell them, like, I enjoy feeling good much more than I enjoy what things taste like. Like, it's literally that simple. If I feel good, I'm so much more happy than if I
Yep.
take a little bite of ice cream or cake and I'm like, wow, sugary, yum.
Yep.
And the thing is, when I would do take a little bite of cake, candy, whatever, like I urge anyone, like next time you take a bite of something super sugary, try to figure out how your body feels. Don't focus so much on how it tastes. Figure out how your body feels.
Mm.
I notoriously would not eat cupcakes in like when I was a little kid, or like frosting. I would always avoid it because I would get this aching headache afterwards.
Mm.
And it's just it's stuff like that the flavor is distracting you from how you feel. And because the government, or not the government, but like big corporations are selling all that, they're trying to sell more and more, and so they're gonna just make it taste as good as possible.
Yep.
And like, is it actually even doing anything for your body? Like, are you actually feeling good? Are you feeling full? Whatever. And like back when I used to eat a bunch of carbs, I would eat like you said, like 5, 6 meals a day, and you're
Yep.
just piling in the carbs. And I would eat so much like rice and oatmeal and all this stuff, and then 2 hours later I'd be hungry.
Yeah.
And it's like I put so much food in my body and I'm hungry again.
Yeah.
Now is like, sometimes I eat, like if I eat a steak for breakfast, like steak and eggs for breakfast, I'm gonna be full for like 5 to 6 hours. And I
Mm-hmm.
might forget about like lunch if I'm
Yep.
busy, just because
Yep.
my body is so full. I'm running on so much energy already. It's such a better feeling to me. And it's not worth it to just be like, oh yeah, like I want to taste this flavor.
Yeah. It's true, man. And when you look at things like that, as how's this going to taste versus how it's going to make me feel? It's a big question. And when you look at the things that you're comparing that to, whether it's the steak versus the cupcakes, it's like, okay, the steak was born this way, so to speak. It
Hmm.
wasn't created in a factory. It doesn't have a flavor profile that had to be broken down and titrated and chemically, balanced.
Yeah.
It's made this way. It innately possesses this flavor, and it innately gives you the feelings that it does of sustained energy, fulfillment, sustenance, nourishment. Whereas the other item was created. It had to be made in a bake shop or in a lab or a factory or, wherever. It had to be balanced for flavor and figured out what was the best stimulant and what was the best way to represent these flavorings. And there's an art to that. Don't get me wrong. Artisanal bakery and patisserie is great,
Hmm.
but it's not meant to nourish the body. It is meant to just please the mind,
Yeah.
hit the pleasure center, flood the dopamine,
Hmm.
that's a convincing. That's something that had to be made in order to do that. Whereas these other things that you're finding, like I said, all the sustenance and nourishment from are just by damn nature of how they came onto this earth. Nothing else.
Yeah.
And it's like, whew, well, that's a tough pill to swallow if you have the honesty to be able to do it, which I think the challenge for most of us is exactly that. It's very difficult to have to argue. But for humans, one of the most difficult things we deal with is trying to convince our minds of something that our hearts know to be a lie.
Yeah.
And that's the tough spot. And especially when it comes to our food, we can be Red Sox and Yankees fans and get along, but God forbid one of us is a vegan or a carnivore. Nobody cared when I was a junkie. Nobody cared when I was a booze hound. Nobody cared when I was doing other things that were reckless and abandoning.
Mm-hmm.
But God forbid when I started eating only meat, boy, the world came out of the woodwork to be critics.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
As
So
soon as
that's
you
just,
try to be healthy and you get out of that
especially in a
consumption.
dietary sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people came out the woodwork, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, I didn't know it was we were that sensitive about it." I'm going to leave an asterisk to throw a wrench in your spokes too, because I know you respect it in the same way that I respect the merit of it. There's a guy that I have been following for a few years now, or rather read about a few years ago, and I haven't been able to find much on him in the past few years, which makes me kind of worrying about what's going on. But a guy by the name of Michael Arnstein. He is known as the Fruitarian. He's an ultra marathon competitor. He's ran in 100 or more than 100 races. So more
Mm-hmm.
than 100 milers. And for about 13 years, he was a strict fruitarian, only consumed fruit. This is a guy that was a former 245 marathoner. And he's a sub 230 guy now, 220s, like mid 220s. So we're
Mm-hmm.
talking world-class marathon speed.
Yeah.
As a fruitarian, and over 100 mile races as a fruitarian,
Yeah.
winning several. And we're talking like Badwater, Leadville.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
what's the one in Hawaii? I can't remember it, in Through the Jungle, but big personality in the ultra community.
Yeah.
That made my head spin. I was like, wait a second, I got to read more into this.
Yeah.
To the point of your word at the very beginning, curiosity.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to stand on the pulpit and say dogmatically, absolutely, it can't be done another way. That's what got me here in the first place. Same as you.
Yeah.
People said it had to be done this way. It can't be done another way. And it definitely can't be done that way, the way you're practicing now.
Mm-hmm.
But sure enough, here I am, 4 years later, and still feel pretty good.
Yeah.
But then I start reading about this guy, and I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. That's, it'd be one thing if somebody was telling me how they felt and he had to do it for religious reasons. And he's like, Jake, it's really good. I'm like, yeah, but what's the proof? Do you have anything to show for it? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I've ran over 100 milers and I'm a sub 220 or sub 230 marathon. I'd be like, all right, you got my attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
No, for sure.
big time. Now,
I think
as far as in sustainability, though, I started to read about it and see some of his videos and whatnot. Waking up in the morning and having 20 oranges. Yeah, I don't think that's sustainable. Getting up in the middle of the night and eating a snack and your snack is 12 bananas. I do not think that is sustainable. No.
yeah. No.
So there's curiosity there of where I'm reading into it more. I want to know more, physiologically, how does this work?
Mm-hmm.
But sustainably, environmentally, just ethically, and I don't know, pragmatically, it just does not seem appropriate.
No, when I look at that stuff, number one, the first thing that sticks out to me is, well, he's not eating processed carbs.
Yep.
He's not eating multi-dextrose, sucrose. He's eating fructose. So he's eating fruit sugars, which probably going to be a lot better on the body. It's a single ingredient. It's a fruit. It's a piece of fruit. It's not made up of all these natural flavorings and artificial sweeteners and all that stuff. So right there, I think that's great. I think he's getting away with it now and it's working great for him. Like you said, I don't know about the longevity of things. I know a lot of negative effects on high consumption of fructose in your brain, in your body, etc. In your teeth, yeah. And I would also be wondering, I don't know how it is for the ultra community, but how much performance enhancing stuff is being done in the ultra community. Are people taking those substances? Because That's one thing I always tell people is like when they're like, "Oh, look at there's this vegan bodybuilder." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, well, this vegan
Yeah.
bodybuilder is taking exogenous hormones because his body cannot produce hormones
Yeah.
through the vegan diet, you
No.
know?"
No.
And so I don't know, I might look at that the same way as like, are you taking anything exogenous that might boost your performance? And then you're just getting away with carbo loading on all these fruits and stuff like that. But I mean, you see guys like, I think it's Tim Noakes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who got diabetes as an ultra marathon runner, right?
From overconsumption.
Yeah. And so, like, just because you think it's working, like, it could not work, you know?
Yep.
You could reach that point. And I'm, now that I'm like fully carnivore, I'm starting to get into the ideas of looking for local food and
Beautiful.
regenerative food and
Beautiful.
all that stuff. And like, you're making a positive change on your environment. And
Totally.
also, not only that, but there is a genetic code in the food that you eat that is influenced by the environment you live in. And so if I'm eating, like you said, 20 oranges and I live in Colorado, there's probably not orange trees in Colorado,
Yep.
you know? And so where am I
Yep.
getting these oranges from? I'm getting them from California or Florida or whatever, you know? And so then all of a sudden my body is confused because it's saying, okay, we're getting this genetic coding from Florida from a different place.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like, it can lead to issues. I think if you're going to eat fruit and even like, I think it's fine to every once in a while, if you're going to eat like a carbohydrate or something like that, if it grew close to you, if it's natural, if it's something like a sourdough that's a fermented grain, if it's home cooked, like that is as natural as it gets and that's really healthy for you. But if you're ordering bread or like oranges and it's flying across the globe to get to you,
Yeah.
and the ingredients are going to 5 different factories to be produced into this
Yep.
loaf of bread that's then flown to you, like think about the carbon emissions just to make that piece of bread, you know?
Yep. Yep.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it is interesting that there are athletes who can get away with high consumption of carbohydrates, and I think that's just another thing that points to the resilience of human beings, and
Totally.
our bodies are the most robust things on the planet, I think, because we can handle all sorts of things and we can adapt to all sorts of things. That's why humans have stayed around and rose to the top of the animal kingdom. Um, but again, it's like, how long is that gonna work for you? You know, and yeah, it's a scary thought to think that so many people are hooked onto these dogmatic ideas of food pyramid and a
Yep.
balanced diet of high greens, you know,
Yep.
and but I think at least the people out there who are making a health conscious decision to change their diet, you know, I think like the guy who only eats fruit, even people who are vegan, who eat like hopefully raw vegetables or they're eating local and they're eating single ingredient, you know, you're getting rid of the sugars, you're getting rid of the seed oils. That is step number one in my book. You
Yep.
cut out that stuff, you're gonna feel a whole lot better. And
Amen.
it's just simple stuff like that.
Simple. That's the word right there, brother. And yeah, again, it's awesome to hear it from someone at your phase in life, doing what you're doing on the competitive sense in
Mm,
decathlon for Michigan State and for Team USA. It is awesome, dude. It's really a
yeah.
privilege to have you today, Ryan. Thank you. What's coming up
But
in the near future for you, man?
so we got the conference meet this coming, I think, in 2 weeks. Yep. We're competing at the University of Michigan, and I'll be doing a
Nice,
decathlon there. Hopefully, we'll be qualifying for the NCAA championship. Do a
nice,
decathlon out there in Oregon, and then we'll have the Olympic trials at the end of this year.
nice.
And anything after that is based off if you qualify for it or not.
Fucking A, man. Well, I think we know what the nutrition plan is going to be like for you. Then.
Oh yeah, Just a whole lot of meat and eggs.
That's awesome. You know, I'll leave the last note. I remember reading a couple of years ago. There was, I forget who the governing body was. If it was WADA, it might have been WADA, or someone else. It could have been the NCAA. But talking about banning the consumption of beef testicle, because
Yeah.
of the correlation or similarity that it had to certain types of HGH and
Hmm.
exogenous PEDs. And I was like, whoa, nice. I was like, so I started really upping my testicle consumption here. Like, well, before it gets banned, I might as well get in on it, you know. But
Yeah.
it's funny to think that, you know, the word's out there, man. You know,
Yeah.
people are going to be asking you what you're doing, and like you touched on the you know, about the PEDs and whatnot with this, with Arnstein and the vegan. Yeah, I've been there as the vegan, literally as the vegan bodybuilder. Oh, you're juicing, you have to be taking something, or TRT is like taking a lot of supplements, but
Yeah.
nothing that's not allowed. But
Uh-huh.
people not want to believe it for sure, and especially when it goes against the grain of what they believe to be right, and especially
Hmm.
when it comes to what they eat. But again, man, it's so awesome to have you, Ryan Talbot,
Yeah.
and yeah, Team USA, Michigan State, like decathlon. Again, you got, you know, this is your remainder of eligibility, your final year.
Yep. Final year.
Oh, dude, this is it. You got to go out with a bang, brother.
Of
Well,
course, of
good,
course.
man. Go
Yeah,
get
and
them. Go get them.
thank you so much for having me on. It was awesome for me to see another athlete like you, especially doing like swim, bike, run. Like that is no small feat on its own, you know. And so seeing you doing it and just watching your Instagram story, seeing you go like, "Yep, we're dry fasting this whole triathlon." I'm like, "What? This guy's like me. He's crazy," you know. And so it was just awesome. It's awesome to see you out there doing it as well and killing it. So I yeah,
Appreciate it, man.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'll be tuning in to watch your races too. I'm going to be really,
Awesome.
really tuned in for sure. And I'll have everything in the show notes about Ryan, where you can find him online, his bio and everything there, Michigan State and Team USA. So stay tuned. And we look forward to seeing you on the course this year and upcoming, hopefully in the trials. And God knows, man, maybe in Paris, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, brother. Well, thanks again, Ryan. Thanks again, everybody. And
Yeah, thank you so
as always,
much.
I'm Jake Thomas, your host here of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. Hope you all have a great day. See you next time.